Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Strata Hadoop World in San Jose. I'm here with Bob Cohen. Bob, how you doing?
I'm fine.
You're with the Economic Strategy Institute?
Right, we're a think tank in Washington.
A think tank in Washington, and you're focused on digital transformation?
Yes, we've done a lot of work on what's happening to the future of the economy, and started doing a lot of things on trade, but have also looked at different policies for the industrial growth and things like that. And so I've been doing work on a lot of tech-related issues. I mean, we started also doing a great deal of work on the semiconductor industry and how that was affected by Japanese competition in the 80s and 90s. And what I've done in the last 10 years is focused a lot more on emerging technologies. So I did an analysis of the impact of grid computing. In the last few years, we've gotten funds to do work on how the digital transformation is going to affect the U.S. economy.
So I don't know if it's an economic theory or not, but it seems like we're at a point in business where it's either change or be disrupted, and watch
Right.
your industry be disrupted.
Right.
Is there a
Yeah,
model
that's
that
part of the
shows
whole-
that?
I think it's a difficult model to tease out because the story is not so self-evident. And I think the other thing that's an issue is that we see these big changes, like the rise of companies like Amazon or Google or Uber or Facebook, and the statistics don't seem to pick up. I mean, you don't seem to see a big jump in some statistic that's an indicator for the general economy just because all these firms are emerging. And I think that's what the story we're trying to tell, that it's more complex because it's somewhat hidden or underground, and we're trying to flesh that out.
And are there key technologies that are enabling? So another one that comes to mind for me is Airbnb, right? They're the largest
Right.
hotel chain now, or something like that.
Right.
They're not really a hotel chain.
No,
but
they're not really.
but
A lot
they're
of
doing that.
this is what's called the servicification of the U.S. economy. That we've moved a lot of things that used to be brick and mortar into a service offering. So some of the better examples of that are kind of companies that used to sell hardware, like Rolls-Royce, which had sold engines to various aircraft manufacturers. And now they essentially license their engines as a service. So you're paying Rolls-Royce for number of miles per hour, and then they provide all of the analytics and the support so they can figure out, when does an engine need to be serviced. And they make money by kind of extending the length of time that engines are up and running, and almost guaranteeing that you'll have 100% assurance of flight readiness, so that it's almost like a fail-safe service. And I think that this really changes the economy in a couple of ways. One, it means that we really need to start looking at what's supporting this emergence of services. And in part, a lot of that's what gets addressed here. I mean, I myself have looked at what's happening to the hours to get business value in the whole process of software development, software programming, moving through things like Docker and microservices and up to functions. And we see the same thing on the data side, going from old hardware data storage through software-defined data storage, and the value is becoming much easier to get to immediately. So this is introducing a lot more unmeasured productivity in the economy and far more value that people can achieve much faster. And you see this in the bottom line for some of the companies. I mean, even old incumbent companies.
So there's a lot of sayings in the industry. Some is every company is a data company, and every
Right.
company now is a service company. Every company is a hardware company. I'm not sure I buy that one 100%.
That's probably a little bit more difficult.
But they're
Or
ingesting
they
data
learn
from
how to
hardware.
use hardware, right.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Because we're instrumenting the world
Right.
in this whole transformation we're going through.
Right.
But as we instrument it, we're also digitizing it,
Yeah.
right? Because it's got to
Yeah.
be connected and useful.
Yeah.
So every company is something now, and it's what they're trying to figure out is how do they get there?
Right, and how do they gain more efficiency in the way they operate by having these digital tools, whether they're software or data or a mix? I mean, I see an increasing kind of link between being able to do the data analytics and having the skills within a company, or being able to draw on skills that are more sophisticated in terms of software development. Because if you're creating more sophisticated data analytics, you need the software understanding or the web understanding. And I mean, one of the companies I know now has really pushed the envelope pretty far, and what they're doing now is they're figuring out ways to kind of channel inquiries so that they're addressed properly when they come in from the customer. So that's almost extending the evolution we've seen in data and saying, okay, I can do all these things in terms of data analytics and abstracting, doing predictive analytics, et cetera, but I also have to be able to respond very quickly to outside inquiries and be able to send them immediately to where they should be received so that the proper data is there and I can give the response, almost in a fraction of a second, and that's going to keep me much closer to my customers. I mean, Netflix has kind of demonstrated that their whole use of data analytics has been to kind of figure out how do they keep customers attached to them and continue to have them as Netflix subscribers.
So if companies are on their digital transformation, and I think one of the biggest things that a lot of them want to do, they come from a large central monolithic type software development where they release a product
Right.
and then they re-release it months later or
Right.
whatever. We're moving towards a continuous delivery
Right.
with an
Right.
agile, lean method of building
Yes.
the software and deploying it.
Yeah.
Is that right for everyone? I mean, is this whole let's move to this quick, agile, continuous deployment?
It's probably right for somebody like a Facebook or a LinkedIn or Netflix, but for a bigger company like, I don't know, a Ford, a Boeing, Lockheed, maybe a UPS, they have a certain way of delivering services or a certain structure. So, I mean, Ford has done a lot to kind of reconfigure its supply chain by using big data analytics, and they've built up an internal group over the last 4 or 5 years that's now going to be roughly 500 people within the company. So, I mean, they're not quite as large as a Wall Street company in its software and data analytic capabilities, but it's getting to the stage where it's fairly good size. So I think that on some of these companies, it's more how do they take the old production structure and really use the new insights they get from software development, from big data analytics to run it a lot better. So like in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen Boeing, which used to do almost craft production of 737, 747, when they do the 787, it's almost as though they've taken Toyota or Ford's production line and they're able to run it much more efficiently and have much more output because they've got these digital capabilities in place. So they've really jumped up a level compared to the competition. I mean, Airbus has done the same thing, but this is a real transformative change for a lot of existing industries. And I think they recognize that if they don't do this, they're going to fail. But I mean, we've seen it initially among companies that are, bigger, have the resources to build these teams, but then all their suppliers and everybody else sees that, we have to move ahead in a similar way. And so I think we're seeing a much bigger kind of rollout of digital transformation than many people expected.
So Bob, if we look forward 12 months from now, we're in the midst of a digital transformation. Most companies are grappling with it, in it, their journey's begun, some of them are further along. 12 months from now, what do we see in the economy? Do we see a noticeable change, an uptick, or do we see still the kind of struggling to get there?
The analysis that I've done so far suggests that the next few years, probably till about 2020, we're going to see kind of a churning and a changeover in how companies operate. Not only the gig economy firms, but also a lot of these old economy companies. But that after 2020 to 2025, we're going to add roughly 5 to 7% directly to the growth of the economy. So we're adding, probably around $5 trillion over a 5-year period, which is not insignificant.
And that's U.S. economy.
In the U.S. economy, and it might even be bigger if we look at it worldwide, and that this would create almost a billion jobs for the United States.
And those jobs are not automated jobs?
No.
No. Okay.
They probably use automation to do software development or to carry out, the new structure that's set up. Like at Boeing, you have people working with cobots, so it's kind of a mixed job. It changes the characteristics and the skills of the jobs.
So my last question for you then is, based on that, AI is going to steal my job. It's probably not stealing my job, but it's going to steal a lot of different jobs.
Yeah.
Do you see that happening? And what economic impact will that have?
That's one of the things we're trying to look at. I mean, what I'm trying to look at and what I've seen with some of these jobs is that there's a big uptick in the demand for some of the software development and business and data analytics jobs as machine learning and artificial intelligence begin to be mixed into the business system, and that then creates more demand for people who have those skills, but also opens up ways to have people with lower level skills also do things that have been partly automated. So what really interests me is, will there be some sort of link between automation and machine learning plus the jobs of the future, or will there be the kind of, some people have said all these jobs are going to go away. And there's a study from Oxford that says 47% of U.S. jobs will disappear by about 2025 or 2035. And what I see in the work we're doing is that the skills needed for jobs are changing, so that we need a very different skill mix within the workforce than we've had to date. And you see companies and universities and technical training centers beginning to give people the opportunities to get those skills, either through internal company training or other more traditional devices. But what I'm trying to address now is, how significant is this shift to a very different skill mix, and will that really grow the jobs that are coming up in the future in a different way, or will we continue to see a lot of automation and end up having to tax robots to make up for the job loss?
How much will humans be in the loop in the future?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out, will we see humans stay in the loop, but humans working in a very different way?
Yep.
So
excellent, Bob. We look forward to that future with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.